there, listeners. Welcome to Shit That Goes Under Our Heads, the podcast where we normalize conversations around mental health.
That's right. I'm Dirty Skittles, and alongside my amazing co-host, Rex, we are here to share stories and tips from our incredible guests.
Each episode, we deep dive into struggles and triumphs of mental health, offering practical advice and heartfelt support.
Because no one should feel alone in their journey. Join us as we break the stigma and build a community of understanding and compassion.
Tune in and let's start talking about the shit that goes on in our heads. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes On Our Heads. I'm Rex, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Dirty Skittles. And today we have an incredible guest, and her name is Heather. Welcome, Heather. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Where are you at? Your city looks nice.
Yeah, I'm just north of Seattle in a little town called Snohomish. It's about 8,000 people. It's where I grew up. And I moved back here kind of crazy. I lived in London and Singapore for about 5 years combined. Yeah. Went all the way around the world, came back to my little town. And I love it.
Wow.
My life is now like a 2-mile radius. It's incredible how if you just kind of let your path take you, you end up in places you just would never dreamed of being. And I love it here so much.
What took you out to London and Singapore?
Yeah, I worked at Expedia for 15 years. I didn't go to college. I was a horse trainer. That was my first idea.
Oh.
Yeah. And then a series of events led me to Expedia. I've always wanted to just enjoy my day. I've never thought of work being like part of your day. And then the other part of your day is not work. It's just like your day. And I wanted to work somewhere that I liked. And everyone told me Expedia was a great place to work. So I took a temp data entry job there because I just wanted to be somewhere nice with nice people. Yeah. And then I just grew this career and like ended up being like a director of like product strategy, living in Singapore, and did the whole thing of like arrived at a career. And yeah, it was wonderful. Like so cool. Been to like 53 countries. And yeah, I know. Well, I still like, I'm wondering if my life, like, was that my life? It feels like that was a movie, but yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm like in a 2-mile radius. I don't leave like literally a little.
You're happy. You're happy there, right? Coming back.
I'm the most peaceful I've ever been.
What do you think that's about? Do you think it's just about being back to somewhere that you grew up, or?
Well, the past year and a half have been best year and a half of my life. And I chose to prioritize inner peace as my number one priority. And that has been what I have chosen to prioritize. And that means a lot of things around in my life have changed as I just chose to make that the priority and let go of so many things that are out of my control and just really focus on what I can control. And that's my attitude and my effort.
That literally was my first question. Like, what does inner peace mean to you? But you just answered it. Because I mean, it's different, right? Everybody has something that they're, I guess, running towards, right, Shira?
Yeah. Running towards. It's sometimes running away from, but more so now like running towards or just living for that moment, right? If Bookie taught us anything, live for the moment. Like make those moments count.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I try to embrace every day is this could be the last day of my life. You know, for real. Let's make it great. Not particularly as helpful when I'm feeling anxiety or lower levels of energy, stress, and fear, and those sorts of things. Just it's gonna be my last day. What are we gonna do with it? Yeah, and I think one of the slight changes I made that has been exponentially impactful is instead of saying I want this or I hope I get that or this is what I'd like to see, I just slightly changed my words around that. I like the idea of this unfolding. Because as that unfolds, I may be like, oh, shoot, that isn't what I expected. But yeah, so then when it unfolds, I can say, oh, I kind of like the idea of that now. And that's actually a big part of today for me being here today. There were some other potential mechanisms whereby I could share my story. And actually, this, I believe, is the perfect format. So those did not unfold over the past year and a half, and this has. And I think this is the best possible way for me to take my first step in sharing my story. And it's big for me to take this step. I don't know the impacts of doing so from frankly, a career perspective. I think it's That doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter because this is the step I'm taking and I like the idea of it, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Well, first, thanks for letting us be the audience you share it with first.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's an honor.
And it's a super safe space, right? Like it's just me and Dirty Skittles and you. And you know what? We're just here to make the world a better place.
Oh, isn't that the truth? I know I was talking with a friend about this and she said, what are your goals? Like, why are you going on here? And I said, I just want the world to be safer. And in any way I can share the things I've embraced in the past year and a half to find peace and hope that helps other folks. That's like rad. Like,
yeah,
that's rad. So I worked at, maybe I'll just get into my story real quick.
That'd be fine. Cool.
Yeah. Expedia, 15 years. I was in product management for most of that. And so product managers, we innovate, we build technologies. There was a book we all read in 2012 called Hooked by Nir Eyal. And it was all around how to unlock dopamine in the user's brains to get them hooked on your products and grow them. And it was like the coolest thing since sliced bread. I remember reading that book and thinking, oh my gosh, we can apply science to our business and grow the business through dopamine. And then in 2012, I was part of a group of, they were called future leaders. So a set of directors at Expedia that were identified as future leader, whatever that means. I have a hard time with that term, but no, what is that? What does a future leader look like? But we went to South by Southwest, which is a big conference in Austin, media and tech. And I had just started to see with great clarity, the harms that my category had unlocked, in terms of, maybe Russians meddling with our elections or mental health in teenagers or genocides in Myanmar, all the things that technology had enabled, the harm that it actually had enabled by us maniacally focusing on growth. And I just felt a deep sense of conviction and a deep inner voice saying, you need to use your skills and talents to make the world safer. I thought, okay, I don't even know what that looks like. So at that conference, I went to every talk that seemed like they were doing good with technology. So whether it was, let's help people be healthier, we've got this app that'll make people healthier, or there was a talk I went to with Facebook and the government around detecting hateful content and doing something about it. And I just realized I needed to leave Expedia and go work somewhere good. We do something good. So I went and worked for a small online culinary school that wanted to combat the diabetes epidemic, help people make home cooked food. And I thought, that's cool. I'm in on that. That was a short stint of 6 months. I learned there that you need to ask really good questions about, the founder and how they think about prioritizing things. It wasn't a good fit, but I failed fast, as they say. And then I ended up working for a company called Rover, which is you may have heard of it. It's an app marketplace. If you need a dog walker or a house sitter, you can find one. And was in product management there. And then the pandemic hit and my role was eliminated because guess what? Everyone's favorite thing to do was walk their dog. So they really didn't. They didn't keep over. So we had a big round of layoffs. And in that, the universe answered what I'd asked for in 2017 in like the most perfect way. I was asked to run the trust and safety strategy for Rover. So it was a role that didn't exist. They made it and they said, okay, your job went away, but we'd like you to take this one. And I was like, holy cow, you got to be kidding me. This is the coolest thing ever. So I was responsible for understanding all the things that can go sideways when you put 1 million people and their pets together and articulating where the company should invest to make it safer. So that's anything from dogs getting lost or sick, harassment or theft, all the obvious things that you think about, to fraud. And I stepped into that role and it was like unreal cool. I was just like, I am cut out for this job. I love animals. I get technology. Oh my gosh, this is like the heavens have parted and like it's a huge gift, especially pandemic landed on my plate. And about 6 months into that, I started to, kind of get my arms around everything that was going on within the community and got super clear on what I believed our number one priority was from an investment perspective. And that was to address a use case whereby our app was being used to do sexual harm to our sitters. So it would be, you want to come walk my dog, and that isn't what the person's looking for.
No way.
Yeah. And it was the craziest experience because I went into just this kind of out of body state for about a 2-week period. And what I did is I went in and I Versus I logged into all those bad actor accounts. So we'd only had, it's very few and far between that this happens, very rare. And this is all public. I mean, there's the, news articles around this prior to me being in the role. And I went into all of the bad actors' accounts to say, what are you doing? How are you doing this? What do you look like as a profile? And I saw some patterns, right? And boy, I'll tell you, I learned more about like what grooming looks like and that's what it was going to look like. Anyhow, so I asserted that as the number one priority to the company from a trust and safety perspective, and got support from leadership on that, and then spent a good amount of time articulating what to, where to invest and what to do about it. And kind of in that time, acknowledging that any investments made that involved technology, so building solutions, were going to take some time. I stood up a manual process. So if someone was kind of detected as looking risky in this way, yet hadn't done anything. So that was the whole premise of like, there seems to be there's a signal here. Let's do something before the bad thing happens. Because that's what groomers do. Like they kind of poke and get away with, I can get away with more. And then, a bad thing happens, life altering thing. And that's around this time is when my mental health started to get real. I was high on life. I mean, I get that bad things happen. I get there are bad people out there. That isn't what eroded my mental health. And I should say before I go any further, my mental health has been part of my reality since I was 15. I tried to commit suicide when I was 15. So I have spent a good amount of effort in my adult life understanding myself so that I can stay happy and healthy. So I just put that aside. But my mental health started to go down big time. Because the rate in which I was able to get these manual things over the line while I waited for technology was just taking forever. Things were getting prioritized ahead of it. I would think I had a team ready to work on it, and then they'd get pivoted to something else because the business needed help somewhere else. And so then I hired a friend of mine to come in. Like, can I just hire someone to just do this work for me so I have control over it? So I did. And a dear friend of mine, he was an executive at a big company. He went through a whole round of corporate betrayal, had mental health himself. He was not working. I was like, hey, I think this could be a cool thing for you to work on. Might give you some purpose in life. So he's like, sure. Well, then he committed suicide.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah. And that screamed me up. Because I'm about one step from that a lot of times. That wrecked me. But the beautiful thing at that point was because I was so wrecked. I mean, I had to take a week off. I still to this day can't talk about it without having a reaction. The leadership team dove in and they're like, we're going to get this over the line for you, Heather. And I'm like, oh my God. So then I went back to my state of like, hope. And okay, the tragic event wasn't all for nothing because now I've got leaders. They're going to get in this. They're going to see it. They're going to see what I've seen. That's going to be part of them. Like it's part of me. And okay, maybe that's why this part of the reason why he took his life was so that, and then some more months went by and time went on. The engineering team was working to implement some of these things. But, the reality is there's a lot of trust and safety things that the company needed to focus on, a lot of things to grow the business. They, aspiring to be sold and go public. And those things have happened since then. And so things were just deprioritized, pivoted to other things that were not on this use case, things like reducing fraud or, things that have kind of more of a hard dollar behind them. And because the reality is, I mean, you may not know this, but a lost dog is more newsworthy than a rape. Yeah. And it's true.
Yeah.
You get a tier 1 news story, CNN will cover a lost dog, but not a rape. So that's just the macro environment we live in, So it's hard to make a case when there isn't like a risk of something getting picked up by the media or, you know what I mean? It just gets, and it isn't that people don't care. Everyone reacts the same as you do. Like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But when you've got to grow your business and trying to get sold and, these things, I think it's hard but things just got deprioritized. So then we had a bad incident occur and my mental health went in the toilet again. But then again, the leadership team got involved. So I thought, okay, we're good. Anyhow, this kind of continued on a couple different ways. And in October 2022, I went to a networking event for trust and safety professionals. I made a new friend and she looked at me and she goes, you need a mental health break. So we just had this horrible event occur, and we had another big event occur that was not related to harm to our sitters. It was another real big issue for the company. So everything went pivoted over to that and away from the use case side of the problem statement I was pushing for. But she looked at me and she goes, "You need a mental health break." And I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm made for this. I'm good. I can do this. I know I'm the person that's meant to be doing this job." And she goes, "I can see it in your eyes. You're going to break." She goes, "You just told me you hope that the plane crashes when you're in it." Mm-hmm. And I said, "No, it's okay. Okay." And then a few months later, we were getting into planning for 2023. And I was working with some of my colleagues on, look back of where did we place our dollars? Where did we invest in over the year? And the numbers were really validating, my feeling that we kept pivoting away, a small fraction of what we actually delivered on was on this problem statement. It was put against other things. And my body just quit. I just quit.
Yeah.
And I didn't stop crying for a week. I still think to that week and I still have a reaction. I don't know, I have PTSD probably. But, I sent a note to HR, my boss, and I said, "I need a break." And they were really supportive. And I went on leave and I thought, okay, I got to go back to work. So I'm like, I need an executive coach. I've done tons of therapy. I've done tons of stuff in my life. I need an executive coach to help me understand how I can get the right tools to do this job because I think I'm made for it. I think this is my path. Put the word out to my friends, ended up partnering with this individual who on paper would never have thought he'd be the right fit for me. He's an executive coach for like Accenture and all these big businesses. But the first thing he said to me in our intro chat, he said, "Heather, you're a spiritual being having a human experience."
Wow.
You might be my guy. So I spent 10 grand of my own money while on short-term disability. So my income went down. I spent 10 grand, hired him. I'm like, let's do this. He changed my freaking life.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. He was the one who was like, "You need to put peace at your bullseye. That is what you have to do." And I just did everything he did. And I practiced everything. I listened to a book called Living Untethered. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I listened to it in my living room. And I remember the first time I got through it, I like to puzzle and listen to audibles because it gives me kind of,
nice.
Yeah, it's a nice combo because I have something in my hands so it doesn't take away from absorbing what I'm listening to. And when I finished that, it was probably 1 a.m. I was sitting in my living room here and I just stopped because I felt like maybe I can feel what he's describing. Maybe that can be. And I listened to that audible probably 5 times that year and a slew of other things. But anyhow, the day before I'm meant to go back to work, my leave is up. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling ready. I'm going to do this. There were a few things I asked for some accommodations around. I didn't want to go back and work on that particular topic because I just was worried it might be triggering, but there were a lot of other things that needed, within the program I felt comfortable working on. And I thought it was going to be a meeting to re-onboard me with HR. And I was told that I didn't have a role to return to. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
What was your gut reaction to that news?
Well, the old me would have gone code red. I'm a failure. What have I done? Complete failure. I think I got fired. I don't know what this means, but I just sat there. I was in awe, absolute shock. I was like, whoa, okay. And so I took about 4 days to just sit with it. And I was like, I'm going to sue him. I don't think that's legal. And I'm going to stand up for myself.
Right?
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought of. And I was like, keep that to myself.
Yeah. I just thought, I'm going to stand up for myself.
Yeah.
I've never been in a lawsuit. I'm not one that cares about money. I've never been driven by money. But yeah, so that's what I did. And then I thought, so I got a lawyer and I sued them. And then I thought, well, I don't feel quite prepared to go work for another company right now.
With reason.
I'll just be my own boss. So I made a website and printed some business cards and reached out to one of my mentors and was like, hey, decided to just go out on my own, see if I can get hired as a consultant. And so he helped network me in with a bunch of stuff. And then in that, I had a lot of free time. So then I am the high school equestrian coach now. Mm-hmm. So spent a bunch of time keep teaching high schoolers how to ride horses. And I've really been focused on refining my ability to tell my story because I think my voice is one of my most powerful assets. So I was actually the opener at a conference recently in San Francisco. I didn't tell this story. I just told you. I talked about how to get investment in trust and safety and the mental health challenges of the space. So it was more around that. And yeah, so since then I have one client. I'm making a fifth of what I used to. I haven't been hired for what I would hire me to do. Doing work I did like 15 years ago, but it's for a company that I'm really ethically aligned with. And I know that the work I do helps them grow their business. So I feel good about that. It gives me enough money to pay the bills. I have 3 housemates now. I drive a 1999 pickup truck that I own. I shop at the thrift store exclusively and do not eat out one meal a week. And I'm fine. It's all fine. It is. Yeah. I mean, on paper, people say, what are you up to? I'm like, well, I've got 3 housemates now and 2-mile radius I live within, and I am the happiest I've ever been.
Yeah.
But I've really go. It's been a wonderful journey of letting go of that external validation that so drove me. That external, the first question you get out of, when you're 20 is, where'd you go to university? Well, my answer was I didn't. That's not a great answer. So I spent a lot of time emotional, not time, but I got, in hindsight, a lot of what made me feel okay about myself was people saying, oh, you've got this great career. Oh, you've got, on the outside, everything looks great with Heather. She travels and does all these things and shows her horse and all this stuff. But I realized now on the inside, I was just really, I had a lot of anxiety. And because I was trying to control my outcome, like, oh, I want this promotion, or, oh, I want to buy that condo, or, oh, I want this thing. I want this thing. And then once I just made the decision to just want inner peace and just focus on my attitude and effort, and boundaries are a huge part of that, which I know you all talk a lot about it. Oh man, it's just so much more fun. My life is fun. There are days that aren't, but yeah. And the other thing that's amazing is that in 2022, which this December 22 is when I went on leave, there was a new law that went into place in Washington State called Silence No More, that says even if you settle as part of a lawsuit, which we did, you can, if it's a disability related lawsuit, you can still tell your story around what led to your mental health, which mine was. I mean, I was on mental health leave from, the continued deprioritization of the investment in this area is what, broke me. And because I had to accept the reality is that in the macro world, this assertion, women's safety is not a priority that, that drives consumers' decisions. You have a lost dog, that's a big deal. You've got fraud going on, people don't trust you, but this is just well, that happens, women get raped. And nobody really feels that way on the inside. They're horrified. Right. But you know what I mean? And so anyhow. Yeah.
And was there any repercussion for the company? Was there a lawsuit that took place so that these women could be compensated, or?
There is. That's a really great question. Thanks for asking. There's a class action lawsuit. I don't know the details of it specifically, but there's a class action lawsuit that was filed. You can just Google it and you'll find it. And a friend of mine, I'm hoping we can put this in the show notes, has stood up a website that will connect victims with legal support. And I've written it down here. It's called helpingsurvivors.org/Rover sexual assault. And that will help if there are other victims or folks that happen to hear this and say, oh, I would like to see if I can get some legal support on this. That's a path that folks can take. But yes, there's a class action lawsuit that I understand is underway right now. And I think the other thing I've learned is that I hope that good will come out of all this in the end. I hope it will make things safer for others down the road. Do you know what I mean? That the harm that individuals have incurred, if folks step forward and say, this isn't okay, and I would like my story to I'd like some recourse, that if enough of that happens, then yes, things will need to change. So I encourage anyone who has been a victim or knows of a victim or knows somebody who might be to go to that website and seek legal support. Yeah.
Yeah. This lights a fire in me because first of all, I'm very, sensitive to safety, but specifically women's safety.
Yeah.
So to hear this, I mean, I know that this happens, right? Like, and what you're saying, like how there are companies and organizations and even just fucking news, right? Like it's not important enough. And that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, first of all, let me not get into it, but I'm like, it's not okay. I just think on a human level, right? It's not okay to not be safe.
Yeah.
Right? That's just like a basic human right to feel fucking safe.
Yeah. I think the other thing I would add is like the executives here at Rover are some of the best humans out there. Like in terms of corporate America, they really are great humans and they really do care, but the reality is that, it's just kind of the way it is. I mean, we all know someone who has been a victim in some way or we have personally, and so until society says no, this isn't okay. And it isn't a Me Too thing that sticks around for a year and then goes away. It's like, no, this is not okay. And we need the media to talk about it. Right. See, this is the thing. Like it has to be the things that get coverage are the things that people care about and they think about and they demand action around. And my hope is that I don't know how technology is going to play out. I mean, it is the Wild West. There is no regulation on technology pretty much whatsoever. I mean, the harm, even if with generative AI, I believe it's our greatest existential crisis right now, but don't get me started on that. Oh, there's no regulation. I mean, you think about there was a consumer good on the shelf that was like causing all this harm. They would recall it. The FDA would off. But for whatever reason, tech can just keep on innovating and launching all this stuff. It like blows my mind. For us to care, there has to be a stick too. And that stick comes in the form of regulation and it's just unregulated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting more so in Europe and other parts of the world where there's more regulation coming down, which is great because that will make companies do something. But without that in place, it's just hard to make the case. And it's hard even as a leader to go to the board and say, hey, I think we should invest in this thing when you don't have to. And there's no real upside to the business if you do. And that, when I in those 4 days after I was told I didn't have a role to come back to, I mean, the sadness I had wasn't around the loss of the job. It was the lot not being able to be there for the community. Because I mean, I'm a gal that speaks my words. I'm going to create a deck that tells a story, even if it makes you uncomfortable. And that's always been a career limiting factor for me. I mean, at Expedia, all my peers became VPs and SVPs, and I was just kind of stuck at director forever,
Yeah. Literally same.
Right. But I stood in that living room and I stretched my arms out to the world and I said to the community, I said, the degree to which I can continue to use my voice to make you safer, I will do so. And so I think for it to be something where more people say, this isn't okay, we need change. It needs more visibility and awareness so that people can demand it of our government.
Yeah.
Of the companies we buy from, show me what you're doing to make things safer. But we're just a ways away from that.
This is why conversations like this are so important because we can talk about it and we can see your story and where you are now today. But anybody listening who this registers with, whether they are directly affected by it or know somebody that is, it's so hard to keep fighting that fight when you feel like your voice isn't heard. And I think having these conversations and hearing it and, oh my gosh, there are people that this is enough to talk about it.
I feel like it's such a gift to be here today because even if this reaches one person that's going to walk a dog and they think, oh, you know what, I should bring a friend or meet in a public space. I heard about that thing.
Yeah.
And that prevents something bad from happening. That was worth this. Cause I don't know if this is, I'm still in the trust and safety space.
Yeah.
Like, good for my career to be doing this. But I think honestly, it's anyone that would want to work with me would be someone that would listen to this and say, gosh, she's good for her.
Yeah.
She didn't say anything that was confidential. She didn't say anything that was, you couldn't find out for yourself. She told her that's within the bounds of the law. Good for her. I want that in my team. So,
so
I would like to be making a fifth of what I was making forever and ever.
I just need to be a little bit more comfortable. Just a little bit more comfort.
More. I'm only 45. I would like to not be chipping away at my retirement. And I don't have a couple grand out a month, so I don't feel terrible. But still, this is the time to be earning and not burning. So,
what are you doing? What are you doing today for your mental health? Like, what's your daily practice?
Okay, first thing first. Have you heard Herkel-Durkel?
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Wait, what is Herkel-Durkel?
Nicole had talked about Herkel-Durkel. Remember, it's like laying in bed.
Yeah. And then maybe you could, Christian, say how I did. I was in the habit for 20 years of just rolling out of bed and getting on with my day. My brain's just going, you gotta get going today. And I didn't want to just pull myself out of bed every day and just face what I had to do. So I chose, and I didn't know the term Herkel-Durkel when I started doing this about 1.5 years ago. What I do when I go to bed at night, I visualize what I want to be excited about when I wake up. And it could be anything from like, I'm going to empty the dishwasher. That'll feel so good. To, oh, you know what? I need to send so-and-so a note, whatever it is. And then when I wake up in the morning, I lay there until I remember what it was. And I don't get out of bed until I'm looking forward to doing something.
Nice. Okay.
So
Herkel-Durkel.
Herkel-Durkel. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It is. It's the best. And sometimes I have to lay there for a good 15 minutes to be like, oh, what do I want to do that sounds like a good first step? And sometimes I'll remember what it was when I went to bed. Sometimes I won't, but I just lay there until I feel ready to do something that not just dragging myself up to get on with another day.
Yeah.
So there's that. I spend 2 to 3 hours at the barn with the horses every day, which has been, before I was paying someone to do my chores. I paid somebody to ride my horse. I would only ride once a week because I was working all the time. And now I do everything myself. I clean my stalls, I ride my horse, I do my things, I coach the kids. That's been just, unbelievable part of my day. And then I actually used part of my settlement to put a sauna in the backyard. I did that.
Nice.
The sauna and a cold shower. So those are I don't do those every day, but a couple of days a week I do that.
Yeah.
I go to the barn every day, Herkel-Durkel.
And your inner peace is your priority now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've got a ton of things I do around that to find the inner peace. And of course, it's oftentimes I find myself in a state of anxiety or fear. And honestly, the biggest fear I come from is, oh my gosh, is anyone ever going to hire me again? Am I going to just, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. Yes, someone's going to hire you. Yes, Heather, if so many things that you can do, and you've already proven that you can live on just like, I'm literally making like 50 grand a year and I can get by, and it's fine. What am I worrying about? You've already figured that out. You can make 50 grand working at Home Depot. You're fine. That's just the indoctrination that we've had, I think, growing up. And then the boundaries are a huge part of it. When there's a vampire energy draining situation, just putting a boundary and being okay with however that's going to go, and I can't control how someone reacts. I can, approach the conversation. I try and give myself space to approach a tough conversation from a place of like peace, loving kindness, like put myself in their shoes. Think, how would I want to hear this message? Because I've cut a lot of people out of my life, not like cut them out, but said, this isn't my space. And so sit with that. And maybe if you want to take that on board and adjust, and then we can still be in the same space. But if not, then that's okay. Maybe later.
Yeah, that's huge though. We talk about it a lot. Like that's so important. And I think I'm just starting to learn that I can do that with work. I think it's,
thank God.
When you talked about the vampire sucking energy.
Yeah.
Hopefully nobody I work with is listening. But no, I think even now I'm learning that boundaries aren't just in relationships, right? Like this could be, and I think it's healthy to set boundaries with how much of my life and energy and peace I am giving away to an organization that fucking literally could care less. You know what I mean?
Oh, so and you know what? One thing I found is hilarious when I look back is annual feedback, right? I just get such anxiety. I don't know if it resonates with you. I'm like, why did I have so much anxiety over one person's opinion of me?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah. Creating goals was a rough one. Oh my God, for fuck's sake, is this going to be enough? Or what is it that they want to hear?
I think the other thing to be aware of too is just the power of no. Like, and feeling okay saying that, because, early on in my career, I would be a yes man. Yes, until I got fucking burned out.
Yeah.
wake up on Christmas Day and be like, I'm fucking done. But like the minute I learned to use no in a very proactive and healing way, I love that word because it is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
I know. I have to say, I'm not going to do that. You can do it. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like you'll have fun with that. Yeah.
Go forward. No, honestly, go forward. We don't need to do it together or whatever.
Okay. I have some questions. Question 1. I've now hearing your story. I don't want to guess this for you. So I'm curious, to date, what has been the hardest lesson you've had to learn?
Like change is happening. Things are moving in a direction that I want them to, but just not at the pace that I think they should be moving. But I am not in charge of the pace at which things are moving.
I love that.
It's big.
They are moving in the direction that gives me hope.
That's actually big. That gives me hope. You could go back in time to a younger version of yourself and give yourself a piece of advice. What would you say and how old would you be?
I've taken myself back actually in this past year and a half to when I tried to think, when did the anxiety start to show up? And it started to show up when I was 10. Because I changed. I went from a private school where everything was very kind of safe and understood. We all wore uniforms. And then I went to a public school, and then it was being cool mattered and fashion mattered. And had no friends. And that's really when the anxiety showed up, because then I really cared about fitting in. But up until that point, I don't remember anxiety until then. And so I go back to that little 10-year-old. Oh, I might cry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Because I have done this. Sorry. I go back to that little 10-year-old girl and say, you are beautiful and kind and just perfect as you are. And just be you.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that. We need a safe word for tears. Like, keep it. I'm like, somebody's cutting onions in here.
I would also tell her, you're a very sensitive person. That means you cry a lot, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're okay. Just cry when you need to.
Right?
People get uncomfortable when you do, but it's just you. You just feel a lot.
Yeah.
I did the other day. I hadn't cried in months, and something just hit me wrong, and cried for an hour, and man, I felt really good.
Let it go, right?
It's cathartic. It really is. And then I wrote about it, and I was like, I can move on with my day now.
Yeah.
The more that release.
Totally. And then for me, when I get what I call code red, it can get scary when people see it happen. It's almost an out of body experience where I'm just hyperventilating, crying, and I'm maxing out.
Yeah.
Now I know that about myself. Like this past year and a half. Okay, it doesn't happen very often. It's a big thing has happened. And so you're just reacting to it, and you will go through it and you'll be okay. But when people see it that are close to me, are like, oh, Heather broke. Do we need to get her on medication or something?
Oh, yeah, I can relate to that. I think a big thing that I learned in my journey in therapy was that certain reactions or, physical side effects, I guess you could say, that I thought were abnormal or made me weird, or like, I was ashamed to show like that emotion, was normal. And everybody's different. And there were certain things that I learned about myself where I would, speaking of anxiety and things like that, I would jam pack my day of like thousands of I have to do these things because that is what's expected of me, or I should perform this to this level, right? So just jam pack your day. And then I would break, I would have the code red, like you say. And I was broken. Like, just leave me be, let me spin out, don't look at me. Like, hopefully I get it together again. But learning through therapy, that is something I was doing if I felt anxious, if I felt out of control, it was like a trauma response. If I can just mask with all of these things, nobody will know. And then once I realized what the cause of that was, it was freeing. Like, oh, I'm not weird or crazy or abnormal. This is just something.
Well, you are weird, but I love you.
Well, I mean, I am wearing a Halloween shirt in July.
Stay weird.
Right?
Yes.
Stay weird. Like, don't be normal. No, just stay weird.
Be kind. That's what I tell my nephews.
Yeah.
That resonates with me a lot. I did the same. I jam-packed every minute, every day. But for me, it was because I never felt like I was enough.
Mm.
So if I was pushing myself as hard as I could and there was nothing left to give, then there was nothing more I could do to be enough. And so it's just the best you got.
Yeah.
You know? But this past year, I really realized I'm enough. I'm enough.
Yeah. To the point of exhaustion, right? It's like, I have nothing left to give because I am done. Yeah. Same. Horrible place to be. But we're good now. Look at us.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Look at you. Halloween in July, you know. I butched it up, put up a shed this morning. At least we have the walls up. You know, we're good.
Heather, your story, I mean, I absolutely love it. This might be one of my favorite episodes, should I say? No, I just think your message and your story and the courage you have to just be vulnerable on this platform with us. Like, I'm super honored to hear your story. And I just, man, it's good. I love it.
I'm really grateful for it to be here. Like I said, I think it was just the perfect step in my path, honestly. Because like I said, mental health has been a thing. I tried to kill myself when I was 15. Like, it is, anyone who knows me knows that I've really tried to find peace along the way. And I do a lot of therapy. I've done a lot of stuff, a lot of this, that, and the other thing. And I think it's I don't know about how you two feel, but kind of been my superpower too, because I've had to get a real high level of emotional intelligence along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that lent itself well in the work environment because I'm able to really kind of read a situation. And ultimately, I was an influencer, internal, to get people to do stuff, And so I think it became kind of a superpower at work. And then, I don't know. But I think this is just with the fact that there's the Silence No More, which says because it was FMLA. And then this came about, like, this is like the safest place for me to go tell this because I don't know what's going to happen. My boyfriend's like, you aren't doing anything illegal. Nothing's going to happen. I'm like, well, if they hear about this, they're not going to like it. I think I'll probably at least get a letter from a lawyer, won't I? He's like, I don't know.
That's how I think.
Companies do things, even if someone hasn't done something wrong, to scare and bully somebody. Yeah. Quiet. And you know what? There's a lot of people in the trust and safety space that have very powerful stories to tell, and they don't tell them because they're scared of retaliation. And so therefore, the word doesn't get out. People don't know the harm exists and nothing changes, or not enough changes. And so I don't know. I'm really grateful to be here. And I hope it makes at least one person safer out there. And hopefully my mental health tips and tricks will land with somebody too.
Yeah, for sure. I think
I love this. Thank you so much for
thank you.
Just being you and being a badass. You really are. You're a total badass. And and like, with the podcast, we get listened to all over the world. And we have a lot of listeners, which is scary. I'm not even going to say the number anymore because it scares me. But what I know, I finally got that point where you got to, Dirty Skittles. I can't even look at the stats anymore.
Yeah, I don't need to know.
It's better not to, honestly, and just think it's if you chit chat and just keep it that way.
Yeah. But
selfishly, I still do it for me. I don't do it for anybody else. I do it because I like this. Yeah. And I get to hear stories like yours where I'm like, fuck, I wish I would have heard this when I was younger. Like this would have mattered. And so that's why I think your story is going to reach.
Yeah, I love that. That's that other mental health thing I've implemented is I don't look at the news at all. For a year and a half, I have not looked at the news. Oh my gosh, what a game changer. Because oh my gosh, you guys, when I hear about stuff now, it's almost hilarious. Bibles, you're like, what? Yeah. The spy balloon thing, because I look at our dinner table now. Someone's like, oh, have you heard about the Chinese spy balloon in Canada? I'm like, well, come again? What?
It sounds fake, right? You're like, come on, dude.
Yeah. So anyhow,
thank you.
Unplug from the news.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate this. This has been great. Thank you so much for sharing your story again with us.
Yes. Thank you. Unplug
from my business?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I can be found at twinkle.llc. So my business is Twinkle, and that's because I want to shed light into the darkness. One thing I'm focusing right now is offering coaching to trust and safety professionals that are dealing with mental health. So within the space, there's a lot of people that deal with mental health challenges and trust and safety. And my coach told me I'd be a great coach. So I'm like, let's try coaching. So I only have one client, but if there's anybody out there that is in the trust and safety space that would like some mental health coaching, I'd love to do an introductory chat.
I freaking love that you're giving back, right?
Yeah.
Like you're taking from your heart and your soul and you're reaching out and helping other people. And to me, that is the most honorable and most beautiful thing that you can do.
Yeah. Thank you.
And now I'm going to cry. So,
You've made it
yay.
this long.
I've done good till now.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, Heather. This has been great.
Hi, all. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm G-Rex.
And I'm Dirty Skittles.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'd love to listen to your feedback.
We can't do this without you guys.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.